Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today we have another great guest. As our ongoing subscribers know, often on this podcast, I'll be sharing ideas and insights, best practices for building professional relationships, and how we can excel at business networking. Occasionally, however, I will be interviewing subject matter experts, authors, speakers, thought leaders, social scientists, and these people are going to share with us their knowledge to help us understand relationships better and how we can use our humanness, if you will, to be better connected. Today on the program, I have got John Nimmo on. He's an Amazon International best-selling author and founder and president of Leadership Lived, a leadership development company, and he's the author of the book, Why Wait? A Leader's Perspective on Procrastination and Why We Do It and What to Do About It. And I really wanted to get John on the program because of this whole thing of procrastination. And you talk about procrastination. John and I have spoken for an hour or half hour before we hit record, just kind of kicking around different ideas and all sorts of stuff, and allowing the yard work people to move on from outside his house or his studio. But at any rate, John, welcome to the program.
Oh man, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. I really am. And for your listeners, first things first, congratulate yourself for being here. And, just by being here, you are showing the propensity to be a learner and to stretch yourself and to be challenged through these conversations. And if you didn't want to grow yourself, you wouldn't even be on this, you wouldn't be listening to what we're doing right now. So congratulations. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're here as well. I think, and we talked about this before we hit record, procrastination is everywhere. Sales, going back to school, working out, it's everywhere. And it's certainly within the networking world. It's an easy path to get networked. I know
Sure.
what I need to do. And I talk with people, like, lack of a better term, coach people on things that they need to do. And then you follow up with them and it didn't happen. So I really want to kind of dig into this whole procrastination thing. We certainly want to talk about your book. I want people to buy your book. Again, Why Wait? But I really kind of want to get into, the science behind this, your research. You spent 3 years digging into this and writing this and procrastinating the release of your own book on procrastination. So I guess please take us through, thoughts on this.
Well, you said it 20 seconds ago, Frank. I know what to do. We all know what to do. That's not the issue. It's taking the action to do it. That's the problem. Calvin Coolidge said that, educated people who know are derelicts, but wisdom is the difference between what we know and what we do. There's a gap. And so, for your audience today, what's filling your gap? What is it that's in that gap between who you are and who you want to be? What you know and what you are willing to do about it? What's in the gap? And that's really what procrastination in the book is all about. Eliminating the gap.
Yeah. Well, and you had shared with me, you have your own story to the extent you want to share it. I mean, you were fired twice from two pretty prominent jobs. Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure procrastination played a role.
It absolutely did.
That led you to buying a house for $150 and driving it all around town. I'm living in your car. I applaud you because you will share that. But you obviously got a handle on what you needed to do. You filled your gap. To use your term.
Yeah. All of us go through tragedy. I was a massive failure. I had failed at marriage. I failed out of college. I'd now failed at a job. I failed at fatherhood. And I was very familiar with that. And after a stint in St. Louis, Missouri with IBM, I was fired from Sony. And then I ended up homeless, living in a 1971 Mercury, where the stench of body odor and dirty laundry and ripped, torn vinyl seats was my home. And I guess the redeeming quality was it was big enough I could stretch out in the seat and lay there and be depressed about how am I going to eat? Where am I going to go? And so, in my own business, in my life, I've used everything that I thought to get out of that and not be perpetually chronically homeless into business, where now I'm sitting here with Frank Agan, more than qualified on your podcast talking about networking. And so if I can do it, I'm not special. But you said it really early. It's thinking differently. It's being able to think beyond our current circumstances, beyond our current results, into a future that does not exist, and our potential. Can you think into your potential? What's getting in the way? And I promise you, 82% of the time, it's procrastinating.
Yeah.
It's waiting. It's costing corporations hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's costing us freedom. It's costing us being present in the moment. And we often don't think about it in that way. We think about it as it just affecting us. And it really doesn't. It affects everybody that matters to you in your life.
Yeah. Well, I'd shared with you before we hit record my story about, and I don't want to get into it because I haven't got her approval. But somebody who I think there's a clear path to solve her problems. And 2 weeks later, she hasn't taken that clear path. And for our listeners, the clear path is simply just sending an email. That's it. It's sending an email to somebody who's saying, send me an email. So it's that, to me, it's just such a no-brainer. When I found out she hadn't sent the email, I almost fell out of a chair.
Yeah.
I guess, what strategies do you advocate for kind of getting through this procrastination? I mean, I know certain little things I do. For example, sometimes when I'm stuck wanting to put like a form together or something for my business, I'll have my assistant take a stab at it. And I know it's going to be crap, but she's gotten the ball going for me, right? Here's the Word document. Is this what you wanted? No, not at all. But you got the ball moving for me. And now I'm kind of, the hardest part is starting, and she started it for me. That was my strategy. It still is from time to time when I can't quite get over the hump of doing something.
Sure. Yeah. So one of those things, friction causes us to stop, right? We hit a wall, we get stuck. There's two kinds of friction. There's static friction and kinetic friction. And we've all heard it in the human potential personal development world. Just start, right? Just start. Take the small step, go forward. And the truth is that creates a different type of friction. Kinetic friction, the coefficient is much less than static friction. And you see it all the time in a NASCAR race. Once the car starts sliding, it's not going to stop sliding, right?
Right.
So movement in a direction, any direction in your life forward is a big step. And in defeating procrastination, one of the things I recommend in the book that I talk about is reducing to the ridiculous. So we have this big task that we think is going to be monstrous. And then it's like, okay, what can I do today that's a small task that would take me forward? Maybe it's writing a paper if you're a student, or maybe it's some project at work. Can you just get a small part of it done? Pull the files, do a little bit of research that will prompt you into moving forward and going forward. For you, It's passing it off to your assistant. But we all get stuck. All of us get stuck. And that's the value of relationships, really, is networking and relationships. And so reduce it to the ridiculous. My room is a mess, or your high school student's room is a mess. Let's talk about just picking up the socks. Right. Forget everything else, right? Can we create a habit or a positive behavior in just socks, right? Let's just, when you take your socks off, they go here. Everything else is great, right? But that's a small step, isn't it? Not monstrous, but in our minds, we have to come to that conclusion that a small step, regardless of how small, will move me forward.
Yeah, what I find is that my mind gets weighted down, and you had talked about this before we hit record, is that, when we procrastinate, we're really kind of ruminating on what we should be doing. It's just sucking energy. And I find that once I finally get going on things, I might have a whole list of things. That whole list is 30 minutes of work. That's it. There's not a whole lot to it.
Yeah. So the question, what needs to change in you for things to change for you? When I was homeless, I had to really value that question. What needs to change in me in order for my circumstances to change? And procrastination, dealing with it, and you and I talked about it a little bit. You procrastinating not only affects you, it affects everyone around you. And a great example, whether that's a hard conversation with your teenager about sex, whether you're going to talk to your boss about a raise, whether you're going to, whether you're a boss, a CEO, and you're going to fire somebody. We have a tendency to not want to engage in that arena, right? Mm-hmm. So what are the small steps? And then what needs to change? Because those things will persist through your weekend. I promise you that if those conversations don't happen by Friday, on Saturday when you're at your child's baseball game or your daughter's volleyball game, or you're having dinner with friends, that having to deal with it on Monday is still there, and it prevents us from being present in the moment with those that we love.
Yeah.
Make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. Now, when you were in the back seat of the 1971 Mercury,
yeah.
Was there a sense of consciousness as to what you did, or did it just kind of happen at some point, and then looking back, you said, "Okay, yeah, this is what I did." I mean,
oh yeah.
It was looking back.
It was looking back.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. And that's a great point, because results are all in the past.
Yeah.
Even live data that in a corporation is yesterday's data. It's in the past. The challenge is not to discover it. The challenge is recreate the future, right? We have an opportunity to recreate our lives every minute and every day. And starting in this moment, and networking is, your business associates, whom you network with. And I like to put it this way: the depth of your relationships determines the depth of your impact. So, and I think for men in general, we don't get very deep many times. We talk about going fishing or playing ball, or, we talk about activities, but we really don't get in-depth relationships. And so one of the things I had to do was, I've had a mentor and a coach for over 25 years, and it's evolved now to where we coach each other. So, those types of relationships, trusted advisors, mentors, your network of trusted advisors becomes immensely important to your own success, your own limitation of procrastination, changing the way you think. And the reason for that is because someone else can see in you what you can't see in yourself. You know, I texted my staff today and said, hey, I'm focused on your fullest potentiated self. I see your potential. I could care less about yesterday's results. I could care less about the data because that's past. That's history. So how do we affect the future moving forward from this moment on? Let's be about that.
Yeah. No,
Right?
I like that. Do you advocate things like journaling, stuff like that? I find that stuff's helpful for me. At least then I can look and see that well, years ago, I wrote this book. I call it The Giving Journal.
Yes.
And what I did was I wanted to be more intentional about giving to others. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep track of it. And so what I found by journaling, and I wasn't keeping score, right? It was just for me.
Yeah.
But by journaling, I could look at that and say, you know what, I haven't done anything in 3 days, or a week or whatever it is. And it almost called to me every day. I got to do something. I don't know if something like that works in your experience.
Yeah, I'm a journaler. Okay. My mentor is an avid journaler. He taught me, and I'm 90% faithful, probably in journaling, maybe 85% every morning. I'm an early riser. I mean, my dream pulls me. I don't know about you, but I don't have to push myself when the dream is right. When your dream is right and it's your dream, it pulls you. It wakes you up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m, right, to go to work and get stuff done. And so I'm a journaler. I get up and reflect and journal and read, study. And let me just say, your ability to earn is extraordinarily connected to your desire to learn.
Yeah.
Self-improvement, even Warren Buffett said the best investment anyone can make is the investment you do into yourself. The really successful entrepreneurs, really hugely successful business people invest time and energy and dollars into themselves to get better. And I think that's a component that many of us miss because of the stress of business and trying to work 80 hours and take everything on ourselves.
Right.
We feel alone at the top and we're not really getting better. So for me, to answer your question, Frank, journaling is something that I advocate because it helps me to get better at myself. Make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I guess, my thinking from a procrastination standpoint is if you are even 85% diligent, even 50% diligent in journaling and you're procrastinating, well, then you have nothing to say and then you have nothing to journal, right? So it's naturally
but we all have things that we can be grateful for.
Sure. Yeah.
When I get to that point where I'm not going to talk too much about faith, but I believe that you can't have an idea or an intuition that you aren't fully capable to bring into fruition. Look around your room, right? I mean, if you look in your room, right, everything in your room, my computer, the glass of water I have, everything here began as somebody's idea, right?
Right.
And then they pursued it, wrote it down, perhaps. And I think there's something magical that happens when you write things down. So when I'm stuck and I can't journal, I think, what do I have to be grateful for today? And I just write those things down. What happened yesterday, I can be grateful for and have a heart of gratitude. And then I think an important part of journaling is listening. It's stopping and trying to just not think and allow that to, I'll use your word, ruminate, right? Yeah. Let it ruminate a little bit, and you will get an idea. You're going to get a concept. You're going to get a dream. You're going to get an intuition of something that needs to happen today. And it's amazing. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's, I think these things are all connected. A coach I've worked with has me simply writing every day what were the opportunities from today, and what are your intentions for tomorrow, and then just what are you grateful for? And it doesn't take long to do it. But each one of those things, and I generally do it before I go to bed. So it's,
okay.
It's just kind of churning in my head as I'm sleeping. But each one of those things really gets me looking at my day and kind of reflecting on, the things I need to be doing and,
it's good.
And moving forward. So, but let's shift gears here. About 5 minutes left. Let's talk about your business, things you do. You've got the book, you're a professional speaker, other things you work with companies, or individuals, helping them get beyond this. I would imagine getting people beyond procrastination would be tough because people would procrastinate in retaining you. I don't know. Maybe maybe people buy a gift certificate. Here you have a gift certificate to work with John.
Well, I've had some fabulous mentors and business people in my life as encouragers. And in watching them make decisions, they make decisions quickly and they go to action quickly based on that decision. I use several terms: lollygag, dilly-dally, kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
The people that are really successful don't do that. They dig right in. And in terms of networking, which, we've all been to networking events, chambers of commerce, and, after hours and all those kinds of things where, we're standoffish in a corner because we're afraid. We have this fear factor that we're going to say something wrong or be ridiculed. And I always look at myself and go, get over it. You're going to fail. If you think you're not going to fail at stuff, I have a great saying. I tell myself, you have to be willing to suck at something in order to get better, and writing a book, when you first start out, it's really not very good. You got to be willing to suck at it, in order to make your dream come to fruition down the road so that you get good. You're not going to get up and speak in front of your chamber of commerce for 10 people and do a keynote and then get asked to do a TED talk and go to Dallas. It's just not going to happen that way.
Right.
So you have to work on us. And I know I ventured off track there a little bit. So yeah, I'm an executive coach. I do some keynotes, workshops, a lot of things in the business world that, I view that we struggle with. Effective communication is a great one. How do we communicate to win? And we often think as salespeople, the more I talk, the more I'm going to go. And it has very little to do with talking. It has more to do with listening skills, being what I call a ninja listener. And then, posturing yourself for success. So, I'm an executive coach. I ask a lot of difficult, introspective questions to my clients that help them to think differently. And I love what you said before the show. Going to law school, all of those things help you to think in a different way.
Right.
And whether we know it or not, our results today, your results, are a product of my best thinking at the moment. If I thought differently, my results would be different because thinking controls my behavior and my actions. Right.
Yeah.
So John at leadershiplived, all one word, .com. That's how you can get in touch with me. You can go to my website, leadershiplived.com, check out my blog, all that stuff. And, it's all out there. You can, if you're interested in the book, there's a webpage in the book called whywaitjourney.com. And you can get a free download of chapter 1 just by submitting your email address, giving it to me. And I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to kill you with a bunch of stuff, but for you to have the chapter on courage, which is chapter 1. It's the differentiator for our lives. And there's a great story in there. And, making self-change inwardly, looking in the mirror and evaluating who you are, how to change my results, requires courage. And that's chapter 1. You can get it free by going to the whywaitjourney.com website.
Okay, great. Audience, John Nimmo, author of Why Wait? A Leader's Perspective on Procrastination, Why We Do It, What to Do About It. Thanks, John. Appreciate you being on.
Yeah, I've enjoyed being here. And can I leave you with a quote real quick?
Please. Yeah.
This has stuck with me for a long, long time. It's by Oliver Wendell Holmes. The greatest tragedy in life is not the waste of our natural resources, although that is tragic. No, the greatest tragedy in life is the waste of our human resources, where so many pass with their music still in them. I don't want to be there. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.